access anyway, so.
Okay.
Okay.
There's also a person who's just listed as iPhone 8. Can you identify yourself?
Oh,
Person?
that's Tony from the barber shop. I can
Oh, okay.
rename him.
Okay, cool. Okay. As long as we know
All
who
right.
it is.
You need to start the recording again then.
She didn't stop it.
Yeah, okay, so this is Thursday, December 14th, meeting of the Bolton, Massachusetts Select Board. First on our agenda tonight is a public hearing where the Select Board will hold a public hearing on the petition of National Grid to install 3 jointly owned poles on Meadow Road, beginning at a point approximately 400 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Long Hill Road and continuing approximately 200 feet in a northeast direction, installing 3 new poles numbers 14, 15, and 16 along Meadow Road to service 3 new homes. I declare the public hearing open. Do we have a Mr. Morales from National Grid? Welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Javier Morales representing National Grid, and I'd like to request the approval of the 3 poles that you just mentioned. The purpose of these poles are to feed some new homes that are currently under construction.
All right. Any members of the board have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No questions.
Normally, Mark Case has an opinion about some of these telephone poles. Don, do you know if Mark has any issues?
I do not believe Mark has any issues. I
Oh,
believe
there's Mark. I'm
He's
sorry.
here.
I'm sorry.
I
You are
don't.
there. My apologies.
No problem. I don't have any. I just want to let the board know that we had the public shade tree meeting last night, and that the planning board had approved the removal of 12 trees to allow these poles to happen.
Okay.
So there are 12 more trees that are down?
That is correct. And that's to get those poles to so they can supply power to lot 7 and 8 and house number 100, which is waiting for its occupancy. We've been out on site with National Grid 4 different times, Bob Romer and myself, and it is a big impact to the road, but it was the really only way to get power to these houses. And this is the least amount of impact, which it's still a large impact. But we talked about underground, we talked about coming in the other direction, and this is the plan that was brought forth.
Well, the reason I'm kind of shocked is that there was a huge number of trees taken down just to put the driveways in.
That is correct. And hopefully we have learned our lessons on land like this that is being sold as individual lots that are all adjacent, that are all on scenic roads, and they should have probably been handled differently. However, these trees would probably had to been removed anyways to get power up the street. But it has made a pretty bad scar on a very nice scenic road in town.
Yep.
But that has nothing to do with the poll hearing tonight.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Brian, any comments or questions?
No, but I appreciate the context from Mr. Case.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? I don't see anybody looking to speak.
This is Ken Troop. I'm in a butter or on the street anyway. I've written to you about that whole development, and so you know my opinion on it. This is minor compared to what the developer did to their land, and it's regrettable that that any of the trees have to be taken down. But as long as some of them are diseased anyway, then that's not too much of an issue. So, but I think it was Mark saying that we've learned a lesson. I hope we have. I hope we don't ever allow this kind of thing to happen in another property in town.
Do I have a motion on the petition from National Grid?
Make a motion that we approve.
Chairman, you want to close the hearing first?
Ah,
I'm sorry.
yes.
Do we need to vote that, or do I just declare it closed?
I believe the chair can declare it closed.
All right, having received comment from the public, I declare this hearing closed.
All
Is
right.
there any further discussion among the board members?
Nope, not me.
Okay,
Nope.
I'll accept the motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we accept the request of National Grid to install 3 jointly owned poles on Meadow Road, beginning at a point approximately 400 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Long Hill Road and continuing approximately 200 feet in a northeast direction. Installing 3 new poles, number 14, 15, and 16 along Meadow Road to service 3 new homes.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, Brian,
Yes.
Stan,
Yes,
and I'm a yes also. Okay, thank you, Mr. Morales.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for all your help and have a happy holiday season. Thank you.
you as well.
Two.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, bud.
Okay, next is a tree removal request for 711, 713 Main Street. A request to remove trees. Is there someone from that group here? We're a little early, maybe they nobody's here? Okay. I'm gonna go on, we'll have to come back to that. I think we can go on to the request for a sign from Louis Berdicia. Did I say that correctly?
Berdecia, yeah, Berdecia.
Berdicia?
Yeah.
Thank you to install a 49-inch by 38-inch sign on the building, a 3 by 4 foot window decal,
Yeah,
and a 26-inch barber pole by the rear entrance of the Bolton Barber Shop located at 716 Main Street. Welcome to our meeting, sir.
thank you.
Do we have samples of the signs?
Yeah, I think it's on.
Yeah,
Oh.
we do have those.
All right.
Jenny, can you show the samples of the signs? And are there any questions or comments from the board?
No, looks good to me.
I just had one question, which was, so there's the sign, there's the decal, and then you mentioned a pole.
Barber pole.
And so where exactly is that going?
Well, it's supposed to go on the front where kitchen sink.
Do we have an image of that? I didn't see one in the packet.
No, it's not the image. Now it's not there.
I don't know off the top of my head whether we would need an image for that either. I know we typically do for signs, but I don't know if we need one for a barber pole.
Yeah, I think there's only one kind of barber pole
Yeah,
I've ever seen, so.
We can pretty much fill in the blanks.
26 inches, I don't think that's
It's not-
obtrusive.
No.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, on our notes though, it says it's going by the rear entrance. Is it going by in the rear or is it going in the front?
it's supposed to go in the front, not in the rear entrance.
Okay,
Yeah, because I have one in the back window, inside
Okay.
the shot.
okay. All right, if there are there any questions from the public? No, okay. Could I have a motion on the request for signs from the Bolton Barber Shop? Well, before we get into that, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Louis, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to choose Bolton as a place where you wanted to set up your business?
So yeah, my name is Louis. Been a barber for 21 years. Used to own I own 2 barbershops out in Fitchburg. What brought me down to Bolton was that my wife's been working in this town. I talked to David for the past 3 to 4 years, and I noticed the town didn't have a barbershop. I was always wondering if it needed one. I was looking around for the past 3 or 4 years, see if I could find a spot, and I found one. I think around August. Spot I found it right here on Main Street. came to check it out, see how it went, and it's been going good.
Excellent. Good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Could I have a motion to approve the sign requests?
I make a motion that we approve the sign request for the Bolton Barber Shop located at 716 Main Street.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Brian,
yes.
and I'm a yes also. All right. Well, thank you very much and have a good holiday and good luck.
You too. Thank you. Nice meeting you guys.
Yeah.
Nice to
Take
meet
care,
you.
everybody.
Is anybody here from 711, 713 Main Street? Not yet. Okay. Moving on, we have a request from Bolton Access TV, Nikki McGatchy, for the release of $36,929.96 for the operating expenses and $12,000 including are made up of $24,929.96 for operating expenses and $12,000 for capital funds. Is Nikki here? There's Nikki. How are you? You're muted. That's how you are.
Oh, is that better?
That is
There
much
you
better.
go.
Gotta find the right button.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, good.
Very
What's
good.
going on with Bolton Access TV?
Same sort of stuff as usual. We just wrapped up kind of a busy concert season. So we did concerts for the Wellesley Choral Society, Voices in Metro West, and then just this last weekend we did the Concord Band Holiday Pops. So those will all be showing up on our channels very soon, with Holiday Pops airing over Christmas. So that should be a nice little holiday extravaganza.
Excellent. Excellent. Any questions or comments from the board on this authorization to transfer the money?
I'm fine with it.
This is coming out of the money Comcast sends to the town.
Yep.
So could I have a motion, please?
Make a motion, we approve the request from Bolton Access Television for the release of $36,929.96, including $24,929.96 for operating expenses and $12,000 for capital funds.
And I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Brian,
Yes.
Stan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Thank you very much, Nikki.
You.
Cable Advisory Committee. Request for approval of ascertainment report to be sent to Comcast for consideration in contract negotiations with the town of Bolton. Ken Troop, you are up.
Okay. The cable contract is a 10-year contract with Comcast. It comes up due next July. The committee has been working behind the scenes the last year or so on the details that need to be done to meet all the state requirements for new contracts. We had a public hearing a year ago, and the report documents that, along with public input that we've gotten and with what we need at Bolton Access TV to continue to operate, because since, as you mentioned just before, the funding comes from Comcast fees, and so that becomes part of the contract. And so we just want to make sure that that we're able to continue to have the level of funding that that we currently have from that at Bolton Access. So the report goes to the state so that they can file it, and it also is the basis for then Comcast responding with their proposal as to exactly how much they would provide and things of that with the monies and any other issues they might have on it. It's fairly straightforward because we're one of 351 cities and towns in the state that in varying forms have either Comcast or a different provider. Sometimes, but seldom do people have more than one provider. And so it's pretty straightforward that if we want to continue to have cable TV, then we need to have that new contract with Comcast. So we'll be sitting down with their rep. We've been in touch with them and had a couple of conversations, but we'll be sitting down with them and just reviewing some of the materials that were provided. Kind of ask them how they see the landscape for the future, given that the number of people that have cable is going down as more and more streaming services are available. And so what, if anything, does Comcast have to say about that? Or is there anything that they're proposing to do to try to stay in business, if you will, or whatever you want to call it? And so we'll be nailing all that down as the spring comes, so that the contract will be in place by July when it's supposed to.
Okay. Yeah, I think one interesting aspect of this is that the contracts and the revenue fees only pertain to the cable TV portion, not to the internet and streaming portions,
That's right.
and the fees associated with those. Any questions or comments from the board?
No, I'm good. I read the report and I think it's fine to send.
Are there any other?
I
Brian?
just wanted to say, I don't know who was involved in the preparation of the report. I'm assuming Ken and probably Nikki as well, but I thought it did a really great job of kind of covering the waterfront. I will say the select board is on notice that you're asking for high def coverage, so we need to start going to the barber shop to make sure we're camera ready for that when it comes.
That
I
was the
suppose.
one thing that made me decide not to run for reelection.
That's
That was the one thing.
I like how you wove multiple agenda items into that, Brian.
I do what I can.
High def drove me into retirement, so.
All right, very good. Are there any other comments from the public? Questions? Okay. Could I have a motion for approval of the ascertainment report?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the ascertainment report and that it also to be sent to Comcast for consideration in contract negotiations with the town of Bolton.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call. Brian,
Yes.
Stan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. All right, thank you very much, Ken.
Thanks,
Thank you
Ken.
guys.
Thanks.
Have a
Ken.
good holiday.
Thanks,
And,
Nikki.
You were right. Nikki and I shared in putting the report together, and she did a great job on it. So,
Great job. Great job.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
everybody.
okay. Thank you.
do we have someone here to discuss the tree removal at 711, 713 Main Street?
Yes, you do,
Who's that?
Craig.
All right, Craig, if you could adjust your camera a little bit because we can't see your whole face. There you go. Thank you. Now you're silent. Oh. I know. Technology. Okay, I'll hold on. All right, I think you're with us. I can't hear you. We can
No.
see you twice, but we can't hear
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear
Yes.
you.
Wow. Okay. So I'm waiting for your lead unless you want me, what would you like me to do?
Well, just walk us through what the request is.
Okay. So you may well be aware that I'm renovating the property at 711, 713. And there was an antique barn there that was defunct, not salvageable, and we got permission to tear it down. I have purchased a similar age barn to replace it out of South Berwick, Maine. And where we have all the approvals from the Conservation Commission. We're putting a new septic system. Last night we get approval on that from the Board of Health in the courtyard. And we will be erecting this barn. And when, you know, we did an assessment of the property, there's one large maple on the right in the middle of the area adjacent to the barn in the resource area that is diseased. It's got a big damage on the back where almost a lightning strike went right down about 15 feet in the trunk. And so we went out to an arborist. We hired an arborist to look at the trees in the general vicinity, because I had a concern that we're going to put up this barn and these trees are diseased and have a very high potential of falling on the new structure. That was really the motivation. And I think you were presented with a report from the arborist. I don't know, is Mark there? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. I met at the site with Mark and reviewed, the various trees which are marked on a plan. And there's a description of each one of them and the condition of them in that. There you go. The property line is in the darkened blue area here. Go ahead.
So I hate to cut you off, Craig. I did meet with Craig about this prior to this whole event. I met with Rebecca months and months ago, and the cluster of trees that were in question were approved by conservation. The trees have structural defects, or they're not necessarily diseased, but they have structural defects and prevailing liens and poor root structure and causing potential issues with his property. The lot lines that he has drawn on this map are not correct. The lot lines we have determined off the septic plan that was filed with the town. So on the marquee, this picture we're looking at here comes from Marquee Tree Services analysis of the trees. And they're saying that there's 6 trees that are on his property and 2 trees that are on the town property that need to be addressed. And those numbers are not correct. There's actually only 3 trees on his property, and the remaining trees are all town owned.
Which 3 trees are on his property?
So if we look at tree 1,
Yep.
which is tree 1 has fallen. It's on the ground, so that's not a concern. That is on his property, but that's out of the scenario. Tree number 5 is on his property, and tree number 6 is on his property. The rest of them, according to the surveyor's plan or the plot plan for the septic, you can see the property lines, you can see the walls, you can see the existing chain link fence. And those 6 other trees are actually on town property.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize for that. I thought this plan had been prepared for me by Stamsky Engineering.
Yeah.
So I apologize.
No, and we talked about that on site too with Craig, that it's not we knew that some of the trees were on town property. We knew that these trees all had issues that would adversely affect his property because of their conditions. And then the Marquee Tree Service did do a very well put together package with an analysis of each tree, and they mention them. So in the Marquee's package, trees 7 and 8, which are the ones that look like suns at the top of are what they determined are town trees. And it was just a little incorrect lot lines, and it just puts more trees on the town property. And I don't think it was done intentionally. I just think that I just had to bring that to everybody's attention that there's quite a few more trees. There's only 3 that are on his property.
Okay,
But the Marquis Tree Service, the packet they put together is very accurate. I concur with everything that was brought forth. It's just as the tree warden, I don't have the ability to approve trees that are on town. They have to be within the town right of ways, and this is town property, so it's different.
yeah. So let me see if I understand this correctly. There's 8 trees that are proposed to be removed. One of them is already down.
Correct.
2 remaining trees are on his property and 5 of them are on town property. And you concur that all of these trees have defects of some kind and should be removed, and the Conservation Commission has agreed to the same thing.
Conservation Commission did not go as far as the 8 trees. I believe they weighed in on the 6 trees. The tree number 8 has a very hard prevailing lean at the parking area of the common, and it has a crack at the bottom. It's a multi-stem tree, and it's going to end up in the parking lot. So that's something that needs to be addressed no matter what. Tree number 7 is a large multi-liter pine that is showing less. The crown has a lot less needles than it should. It's on basically a mound of dirt between 2 drainage structures, and is very prone to wind damage and overcoming. It definitely has some decay in it as well. But that tree is pretty far away, but if it failed, it's going to probably be wind failure, and it could hit either or any of those structures.
And does the Conservation Commission have jurisdiction over those trees 7 and 8?
I don't know how. So it's still within the resource area. In fact,
Okay.
At the bottom of tree 7 is a drainage structure, and there's a 24, I believe it's a 24-inch pipe that discharges near it. And in the proposed septic plan here, it talks about relocating the 24-inch pipe that I noticed. So that's, now they're doing excavation work outside of the lot lines as well.
Okay, so tree 7 and 8, the Conservation Commission will have to make
I
a
think
decision.
I shouldn't say that. I believe Rebecca and I did talk about tree 8 because of its prevailing lean, but they had only tagged some of the trees that were closer to the structure, and those are the ones that we originally talked about.
Okay, I don't want to. What I'm trying to do is avoid infringing on the Conservation Commission's
Decision. I understand
decision.
that.
So I don't want to make a decision on tree 7 or 8 if they
Tree-
need to.
Tree 8, from a safety standpoint for the parking lot.
Yeah.
If this was only brought forth, and now I know that there's a problem with that tree, it's enough of a hazard that I wouldn't let that.
Okay.
That needs to be addressed.
So tree 7 is the only one we shouldn't address tonight.
Well, in the description from Marquis, let me see if I can find it here. It basically said it should be evaluated by the town. The health and the structure and the stability of this tree should be evaluated by the town. And I have looked at it. I don't like going around cutting down what seem to be relatively healthy trees, but it is in decline. The type of decline it shows is the reduction of the crown, the less needles, which tends to be a root issue. And if it's having a root issue and it's on a mound of dirt, it's unstable with water flowing on 2 sides of it, it's only a matter of time before something's going to happen. It's going to fail.
Brian and Stan, any comments or questions?
I mean, I'm fine with what I see here. Certainly trees 1 through 6. Is there some consensus about tree 8? And then we need to talk to the Conservation Commission about tree number 7. And I guess the other question is if those trees that are not on the property, who's going to be dealing with taking them down?
So my understanding when I met with Craig is that the removal of those trees, also remember at that point, he was thinking that 6 of them were on his property, that he would be paying for the removal of them. Like I said, if nothing comes of this, tree number 8 will be removed.
If I may weigh in, I'm more than happy to, pay for my fair share of these trees, even if some of them are deemed to be on the town property. I look at tree 8, as Mark has stated, and it's in danger of falling on parked cars in that parking lot area. I think the same thing for tree 7. And I would also add that, as part of our application and approval from the Conservation Commission, that we plan on planting trees down in this area on my property to enhance the look of the property and, for the benefit of everyone. So, and that's already been applied for and documented.
Okay, so let's break this up into pieces. First, let's deal with the trees that are clearly on your property, which is tree, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, tree 2 and tree 6.
No, tree 1, tree 5, and tree 6. And
Okay.
tree 1 is the one that has already fallen down. So
Okay.
we're only really dealing with tree 5 and 6. Now they're clearly on his property without any doubt.
Okay. And those, but to remove them needs approval of the board.
Nope, those are his
Oh.
trees. Those are already been approved by conservation. The only reason we're in front of you tonight is that he's talking, seeking permission to remove trees that aren't on his property. They
Okay.
they definitely, tree number 4 completely overhangs the whole structure, and it's all weighted one way towards the structure, and it shallow rooted. It is a complete hazard to the building.
Okay. So let me ask a question to the town administrator. Is there a problem if we approve removing those other trees with Mr. Bovaird paying for it?
Don't see a problem. I think there must be a way that we can, I would say that we would, perform the work. And Mark, tell me if you disagree.
I do. So I think that tree, sorry, I think
I'm glad I asked early. Good.
yeah, I think tree number 8 would be paid for by the town, because it is such a hazard, and it is only really affecting the town property. It's not affecting his property. It's leaning away from his property, if anything. So I would think that the town should pay for that tree, because it's going to impact the parking at the common. And all the other trees are more, I would like to see that the applicant would pay for the removal of the remaining trees. And we might try to do something with him on tree number 7, which is that pine that's in decline. It's not dead, but it's in decline.
All right. Brian, any comments or questions?
I mean, I'd say I feel like I'm pretty much in agreement with everything Mr. Case has laid out. The only lingering question I have is whether, if we go ahead on tree 7, if the Conservation Commission would feel somehow that they had been overlooked. But that's the only hesitation I have there. But I think I would prefer to just sort of have it all done at once.
My thought would be that either approve or not approve that tree tonight, and that it's going to be on contingency of what the conservation has to say about it. But he's in front of you tonight to grant permission to remove trees that are on town property. And so,
And now I get to interrupt,
yeah, there you
Mark
go.
this time. So, yes, I agree. I think that, I think you could vote tree 7, you could include tree 7 in the vote tonight, contingent upon Conservation Commission approval. It has to be approved by the Conservation Commission. And that being said, for the remainder of the trees, other than tree 8 as well, you could grant permission for Craig to take down those trees on our property, and then he could pay for it directly.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the tree removal at 711, 713 Main Street, inclusive of trees 1 through 6, with tree 8 being taken down by the town and paid by the town. Is that correct, Mark?
Yep.
Okay, and tree 7 also to be taken down by the town.
We gotta get off that phone.
Is that correct, Mark?
I would say that it would be pending approval of the conservation, and that it would be paid for by the applicant.
Okay, all right,
Because
so
if his barn wasn't there, I wouldn't be nearly as concerned about that tree.
okay, all right, so 1 through 6 taken down by the applicant. Tree number 7 contingent on approval by the Conservation Commission, taken down and paid for by the applicant, and tree number 8 taken down and paid for by the town.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. All right, thank you, Mark. Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Bovaird, for
Thank you.
walking us through that. I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you for
was
your
slow on the
consideration.
pickup on understanding
guys.
Very
everything.
much. Thank you,
I have
Mark.
to say that the property is looking great.
Yes.
Thank
Fabulous.
you. We're really happy with the progress.
Looks beautiful.
Mark, what are the mechanics of this? Will you bring this before the Conservation Commission? Do I have to do,
I will talk directly to conservation about that, those 2 trees, well, 1 tree in question, the pine tree.
okay. And then do you guys have preferred vendors, or would your company do it? I know it might be a conflict of interest.
No, I wouldn't do it myself, but I don't mind giving you a couple different names and you can make the decision yourself.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I think that brings us back to the town administrator report.
I believe you're correct. So, first, some updates. Update on the MVP project, which I always refer to as the Derby Field project. We are continuing to work on trying to get a company to come in and do the initial design work that we need. We've got $22,000 in grant money. So far, it either doesn't seem to be big enough for some companies to want to look at, or trying to find the available expertise. But I think Pam Harding did successfully land someone this week. We should be getting a quote out of them. So I'm hoping we can get this moving forward. Because once we can get some initial design done, one of the next steps is to have a public outreach meeting to try to get input from the public as to what they would like to see down there, specifically in the edible garden aspect, but also what they'd like to see in general. It's important to show that. Well, it's important to get the community input. It's also important to show it when we go for the second round of funding to actually do the work. So we're just trying to get the initial design done now. I've been, Pam and Lauren and I have been meeting with the grant representative, the grant manager in Rebecca's absence. Can't say again how much I miss Rebecca and can't wait for her to come back. But the state has been wonderful working with us, very helpful, very understanding, and they're anxious for us to be moving forward as well. Next, an update on the budget and capital process. I believe now all of the budgets have been submitted. I've received all of the capital requests that I am aware of that are coming in from the town departments, and I expect to receive the capital requests from the Neshoba Regional School District tomorrow. I'm looking at my whiteboard right now, and I don't want to scare you because there's much work to be done still. But right now, absent the requests from the school district, the sum total of capital funds requested as of tonight are $545,696. So there's more to come with that. And as far as the budget goes, we had a meeting of the finance committee, I should say, earlier this week. And we've got, as we do every year, we've got some significant budget challenges. I don't want to throw numbers around yet because I know they're going to change. But the numbers are daunting, but one way or another, we're going to work through them. And I'll have another update January 11th. So I guess that's pretty much all I want to say right now. And this Stan is the select board rep on the finance team. Stan, is there anything you want to add?
No, just echoing, yes, the numbers are daunting in terms of where we are and where we need to be. And we need to be very careful about any sort of capital expenditures, not only this year, but for the next couple of years.
And I'll be looking at ARPA funds, the application of ARPA funds towards some of this too. Another topic at the next meeting, I won't get into it tonight, but another topic at the next meeting, there are some potential changes to the ARPA guidelines. I guess they're more than guidelines, which is necessitating Ninotchka and Randy and I to get together next week to review all of our ARPA plans and maybe looking at maybe altering some plans there. I'm sorry, Brian, you had a question for me?
Yeah, it's just a quick question about you mentioned the finance team meeting was earlier this week. At that meeting, did you have the information from the regional school district about the estimated FY25 capital assessment and also their capital plans for each of the buildings? And the reason I ask is because I believe that they presented that information last night to the school committee. I just don't know whether you had it for your meeting.
I have received nothing. I was told by Ross Mulcairn I will have something tomorrow.
Okay.
So anyway, any other questions on where we are with the budget and capital planning? If not, then I will move on to the space needs discussion. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody who has been in the town hall in the past many years that we've got some real challenges here. That we're to the point where we're not going to be able to overcome some of these challenges. The building is a tired building. It's really not a high functioning building from an infrastructure standpoint to try to make the town hall continue to work. If I had the need to add another staff person, I honestly don't know where I'd put them. When we brought in Lauren as our land use admin, had to set up another desk in an existing office so that there's shared space in there. And, the people in the office are making it work, but it's certainly not an ideal situation. And I think everyone, certainly the board knows that we had last November, a leak. It was more than a leak. It was a major leak from a pipe, downstairs, in the bathroom, when we finally knocked in the wall, we got through wall 1 of 3, and between wall 2, and wall 1, we found vegetation growing, vines. We found black mold. We had some major problems with that. A few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago now, I had to shut down the building for an afternoon because we had another leak in the plumbing that was discovered with water coming in through the ceilings. The building, in my opinion, is at the point where we need alternate space for a town hall. We also need, in my opinion, alternate space for a senior center. And we need to do some significant work on, if not relocate, the DPW. All that being said, there are different ways that we could go. We can evaluate existing space that's out there. We can look at building new space. So there are options. And I think one thing to consider, and I actually did not know this until Randy Hegland sent me this just a day or two ago. Randy did come across a manual that's produced by the Mass Inspector General's office that gives guidance on how to approach new space, how to assess new space. Randy also said through his experience in Jaffrey, he was there about 16 years. I think this would mirror to some extent, what the Inspector General's office says. The first step in the process is to recognize the need. So I think the need is recognized. I think it's very clear what the need is. In Jaffrey, the next step they went through was to hire a consultant who was an architect to commence planning, which includes space needs, location alternatives, and preliminary schematics. I mean, that obviously assumes a new building. Space needs doesn't assume a new building, though. I mean, we know what our space needs are in the town hall. And when I said this is not new, Jenny dug out the file that goes back 15 years ago when my predecessor was the town administrator, where a committee was pulled together to evaluate the needs of the town hall and do some initial design work. The Council on Aging and our senior center director and assistant senior center director have pulled together space requirements for the Council on Aging. Randy has not done detailed work on space needs. I haven't asked him to, but just to give you one example of a space issue, at the garage, we've got 4 bays, we got 5 vehicles. We've got other space challenges in the garage. We've got issues with the office that Leslie and Randy work out of. So it's time. I felt the need to raise this tonight because I think we're going to need to start doing something to get the ball rolling. This problem won't be solved in a day. By the time it is solved, I won't be here anymore, so I won't be benefiting from whatever's done, other than knowing that I helped get the process started to help make a better environment to work in for the employees and a better environment for our townspeople. So that was a very long speech, and I will take any questions or comments that or observations that any of you have.
Brian, Stan?
Stan, you're muted.
The need is real, and the need is now. Don and I have had discussions along these lines for quite some time. There's been some bit of exploratory, but I think it needs to come up to the top a little bit more. We need to start doing some serious focusing on this.
Brian?
The only thing I'll add, and I know Ken Troop is here, who also sits on the master plan steering committee, but I will say that I think the needs as described by Don Lowe certainly won't be a surprise to the folks on the master plan steering committee, who are also sensitive to the need for a lot of these space issues and improvements.
I agree that we do need to do something to improve the town hall and DPW and the Council on Aging. What I would recommend as the next step is to prepare an article for town meeting to have a professional outside group come in and assess the needs. I know we've done our own internal studies, but I think the benefit of having an outside group do it is that they will be asking questions that we hadn't thought of. They'll be bringing perspectives of how other towns have done things and be able to make recommendations from a broader perspective than we could. So that would be my advice, is that we get an estimate for how much a service like that would cost. We did this for structural issues a couple of years ago, and I think we should do basically the same thing for defining the space needs.
I would be interested in seeing the proposal for that as well.
Yep, sounds good.
I'll be happy to work on trying to identify some qualified firms and try to get a sense for what that expense might be. I think if you vote that tonight, it sounds like you're going to, I will add that to my capital project list, because although it's labor, it would go towards a capital projects, multiple projects.
All right, do we have a motion for that?
Make a motion, we ask our town administrator to gather information and proposals for an outside organization to look at space needs, specifically the town hall, the DPW office of space, as well as potential space for a senior and or community center.
And I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Brian?
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
On behalf of all the employees, I thank you. They, with the exception of one or two, they did not know I was going to be doing this tonight, so I'm sure word will travel quickly. Next, the update on the second means of egress at Florence Sawyer School. As I have communicated to the board, we did not get the grant that we applied for. The actual grant, it was out of the U.S. Department of Transportation. It was a rural grant for underserved communities. It actually was very interesting. This just goes to show the need. It awarded 13 grants and for a total of $3.4 million. Now, this is a federal grant, not a state grant. I just want to note that the Bureau received 406 applications requesting more than $127 million in funding. Of those, 70 applications totaling $19 million were submitted for tribal applicants. And I've got the list of the 13 tribes and or municipalities that received an award. And if my geography is correct, I think the one that's furthest east is in Wisconsin. So, doesn't diminish our need. So my suggestion for next steps is we still have the $100,000 earmark that Representative Hogan got us in the FY24 budget, state budget. I have reached out to the engineer that put together the engineering estimates for us, and I've asked them to give me to work with Randy, but to give us a scope of work that they could do for $100,000 to get the ball rolling, because either that would be money well spent, either to show we've spent money if we go after another grant, if at some point there is an article to bring to town meeting to get to further, to complete the engineering and design, at least we've got, we've been able to cover some ground and show progress to the town. I don't consider this to be a dead issue. I just think we need to find another way to go about it. And I think, and I've been encouraged by Representative Hogan's office to spend that money, to get things moving. So unless the board has any concerns about that's what I would propose that we do.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea, as you point out. Once you've spent money, many grant applications look upon that favorably.
They definitely do. They always like to see that the town has covered, made some progress and has some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brian, you have any questions? Right. And then finally, as part of the briefing memo that I sent you, the concept of a senior tax relief for school building debt. And I stress this is a concept. And I also want to stress this. While I've been thinking about how, we might be able to do something, this was not my original idea. I was discussing several things with Denise Demkowski, the town administrator in Stowe, and she told me that Stowe was going to move forward to evaluate this. So I said, maybe it's an opportunity for me to bring this to the board for consideration to see if this is something you would like me to be working on. If I did, I would work on it in concert with Denise for the remaining time that I'm here. I'm very much aware of the pros and cons of doing something like this. I'm not saying that it isn't with downside, not without downside. I have my own personal opinions, which I probably will keep to myself, but before I spent any significant time on it, I just thought I should get a sense from the board as if this is something you would like to see me spend any time on or not. As I did say in my briefing email, it would be a home rule petition process. It would be something the board would need to vote on. It would need to be voted on a town meeting. It would need to pass the home rule, it would go through the home rule petition process. And I'm not positive, but I believe it would require a second town meeting vote down the line. So there would be a lot of hurdles to go over. But as I said, I know it's not without pitfalls too.
Yeah, so the question is there a way to provide tax relief for the debt associated with the new high school for seniors? And it's a very complicated question. As we sit here today, we don't know, as you mentioned, what the criteria would be to be for this. It can't just be age, because the population of Bolton is so heavily weighted that way. So there's other criteria that have to be investigated. This is not something that's going to be ready for prime time this spring at a town meeting, but I think it's worth investigating to see what the different parameters are, how things, how well suited would something like that be for Bolton, and to at least collect some information in preparation for doing something in future years.
I would just add, I haven't been on the select board all that long, but I will say that I've also gotten a number of questions specifically on this general topic. So I think, exploring it and just trying to track down what might be involved and what the parameters would be, even if it ultimately isn't something that goes through, I think it's worthwhile to look into it so we're able to answer folks' questions when they ask, what are you doing about this?
No, I think it's worthwhile to explore, but I think this actually might be a larger item. If you look at what were the percentage of tax revenue that goes to the schools, it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, it was between 62 and 65% of the budget. If
Mhm.
if you roughly add in what the new school is going to add, and it's about, by their calculate, roughly 14% plus or minus, depending upon interest rates. And that to 76 to 79%, almost 80% of what people are paying straight to the schools. And I think at this stage, it's been unsustainable for a long time. And I think there might need to be a larger discussion on the mechanisms of how all this gets paid for, who's paying for it. Obviously, to give relief to some group means you have to find the money someplace else. But I think it's worthwhile to explore. But I think we need to step outside the box and look at perhaps some fundamentally different to tackle this issue.
Okay. Don, do you need a motion? You have a consensus. Do you need
I
a
have a
motion?
no, I don't think it requires a motion. I really just wanted to take the temperature of the board. As I said, I realize this isn't without pitfalls, but I think I agree with Brian, honestly, if nothing else, the board will be able to say next year, the year after, whenever, that the board, evaluated the possibility, confirmed whether or not it was a possibility, and at least took a serious look at it. Whether or not it ever goes forward or not, at least you're evaluating it.
Well, at least we tried.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can
At
answer
least we
questions about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yep.
good point, Brian.
So,
Okay.
all right. So that's all I have for tonight, unless you have any other questions or comments for me.
No. All right, moving on to select board business. Are there any public service announcements?
Bottles and cans, Boy Scouts, transfer station. I keep seeing all kinds of deposit-oriented bottles and cans in the wrong places. Separate your stuff. Also, I'm hearing from my colleagues at the transfer station. There are still people who are not happy with the switch to the orange and green bags. If you have an issue, don't bring it to them. Please bring it to either one of the three of us or our town administrator, Don Lowe. The gentlemen at the transfer station have nothing to do. They had nothing to say about what bags we were using or who we're getting them from. So if you have an issue, take it up with us, not those guys.
Brian? Anything?
No, I think a little bit later, I'll just give a quick budget and warrant thing.
Okay. Are there any requests for future agenda items?
Not for me, not tonight.
Okay. Next up, review and approve the 2024 liquor license renewals. And the liquor licenses that we would be reviewing are for the International Beverage Service Company on Ballville Road, a restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages, Bolton Country Cupboard at 476 Main Street for a package store, all alcoholic beverages, Neshoba Valley Spirits Limited, 92100 Wattaquatic Hill Road, Farmer Series pouring permit 19H for distilled spirits, wines, and malts. Great Brook Farms, 356 Main Street, restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages. Daynault's Liquor Inc., a package store, alcoholic beverages on 254 Bush Mill Road. Bolton Baba LLC, a restaurant license, all alcoholic beverages at 544 Wattaquatic Hill Road. And Bolton Bean at 626 Main Street for a restaurant license, wines, and malt. Please make our vote contingent upon receipt of all documentation and fees and completion of inspections.
So moved.
Okay,
Second,
all right, roll call. Stan?
Aye.
Brian?
yep.
I'm a yes also. Next are the 2024 licenses for common viller licenses. And they are Baba and the Legacy Kitchen at 544 Wattaquatic Hill Road, Bolton Bean at 626 Main Street, Subway at 476 Main Street, Great Book Farms at 356 Main Street, Neshoba Valley Spirits, 92 Wattaquatic Hill Road, Hugh Inc. DBA Classic Pizza 3 at 1076 Main Street, Dunkin' Donuts at 476 Main Street, Bolton Spring Farm at 159 Main Street, Davis Farm doing business as Bolton Orchards, 125 Still River Road, the International Beverage Company and Colonial Candies. However, did we get the application from Colonial Candies yet?
It has not come in today's mail.
Okay, so
I know it's on its way. I spoke to him earlier this week and he was mailing it.
okay, we'll have to take that up at a separate meeting then. So exclusive of Colonial Candies, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you don't vote to common vic for Colonial Candies tonight, contingent upon receiving the application, if that, it won't be renewed by January 1st, isn't that right, Jenny?
oh,
So,
okay.
so they would not be able to produce any product until after January 11th.
Okay. So we need to make Colonial Candies and the International Beverage Company contingent upon documentation and payment of fees. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
All right, roll call. Brian,
yes.
Stan,
Aye.
I'm a yes also. Review and approve the 2024 Class 2 license renewal. We have one Castro Auto Repair at 496 South Bolton Road. Do I have a
Move to
motion?
approve. Move to approve.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Brian,
yes.
Stan,
Aye.
I'm a yes. Okay, next we have a Neshoba Regional School Committee Budget and Warrant Update, Mr. Brian Boyle.
Sure, thanks. I will be pretty brief. So I've been going to each of the budget and warrant subcommittee meetings, and typically they are on like a monthly meeting cadence. So the last one was in November. There's another one coming up on Tuesday. I did want to share, I'm going to put into the chat, just so that you all have links to this, because I thought you might be interested. So the first thing that I'm going to put in is the FY25 budget calendar, which is that's the calendar that the budget and warrant subcommittee and the school district writ large is using to follow as it prepares the budget. And you'll see that similar to prior years, they plan to hold a full school committee budget workshop in mid-January. So that's January 17th, which I believe it's a weekday. It's not a weekend. They had been doing them on Saturdays before, but I think this is in the middle of the week. And then I just wanted to share with you, mostly because I happened to see it in the meeting materials for last night's school committee meeting. The school committee was presented with numbers about the FY25 capital debt assessment. So this would include, if you go down to the fourth slide, this includes capital debt payments for the new high school construction, which in FY25 total payment is around $2.1 million. And then you can see on the last slide how that would break down across the three towns. So for Bolton, that total capital debt assessment for FY25 is $801,266.95. A big chunk of that would be debt excluded, because we passed the debt exclusion, but some of it, like the track and field debt and the leach field debt, if I'm remembering correctly, that would be that comes out of the operating budget. And And then the last link that I just wanted to share is the document that contains the current 5-year capital plan for each of the towns and the high school. So there's a tab, and I'm sure that they'll be updating this, but I just figured you would want to see what it is now. There's a tab for Bolton, which covers both Lawrence, Sawyer, and Emerson. And then there's also a tab for the high school. So that's really the update that I wanted to share. I will be zooming into the meeting on Tuesday, the 19th. So I can, if you're interested, and I can share out again at our January 11th meeting.
All right. Are these links going to be available some way other than reviewing this meeting?
I can put them in an email just as an informational, but I felt like good to share it in a public meeting first. And these links are all on the school district's website as of last night.
But if someone were to view this recording, they wouldn't be able to click on those links, would they?
No, I think that's right.
This chat's not available when you're reviewing it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian, if you could just send it to us, or send it to Don, who can send it to us, so we have it. And the other question I had was, I believe the first item you did, which is the budget timeline, which has items from like mid-October through, the end of this year. It's my understanding that there's no one from the school committee that's involved in any of budget development at all from mid-October through the end of this year, or the end of December. And the first time that the school committee actually sees anything is this budget workshop, which is the middle of January. Is that correct?
So I guess the way that I understand it, I think you're largely right. If we're looking at the budget timeline, you'll see that there's those items for site-based / department non-salary budgets. And it says that the group doing that is the NRSD admin. So I think you're correct that all of that detail, looking at the departments, is done first in the first instance by the district's finance staff. That's the NRSD admin. There's discussion about that at a higher level in the budget and warrant subcommittee meetings, but they do the full presentation to the whole school committee in the middle of January. So yeah, it's a different process than what we use with the town.
Right. So the reason I'm asking that is that basically the school committee has no view into how the budget that they're seeing in January, the middle of January, got constructed, and what was added or deleted or changed. So, and that's the problem I've had all along with this process, is that the group that's supposed to be reviewing all this stuff has no input as to how this is all put together. So, and how is, in the budget and warrant subcommittee, based upon when they came to meet with not only the advisory when you were on advisory, and also came to meet with the select board, had indicated that they were going to do all kinds of scrubbing of the budget and understanding, and I don't believe that occurred last year, based upon, you and I both meeting, going to their meetings. So how does the school committee get a detailed understanding of the budget that's constructed and presented to them in the middle of January? And they basically have, what is it, 8 weeks, 12 weeks in between, if and when they do review it, to understand what's going into probably what's going to be close to a $70 million budget this year.
Mhm. So I guess the way that I think that the process unfolds is that, to be quite frank, most of the rest of the school committee does rely to a certain extent on the budget and warrant subcommittee to do a bit of a deeper dive. I think that the individual members of the budget and warrant subcommittee will request information from the administration. It doesn't all get fleshed out like in a group with the budget and warrant subcommittee, but I think that because they have a different model, they basically tell the finance director, like, these are the things that we want you to be doing. Like, you know that our towns are strapped money wise, but they do not do the same thing that the finance committees in each of the 3-member towns do, which is to go through line item by line item in a you know, department by department. They don't do that, and I think it's just not the way that they're set up. They rely on the internal finance staff to do that.
No, that is correct, that they do rely on sort of like the foxes guarding the hen house almost.
Well, you know, I do want to be clear though, like for the people that are currently on the budget and warrant subcommittee, I do believe that all of them are in good faith trying to scrutinize to the best that they can. I don't think that they're doing it in the same way that the finance committees of the towns do it, but they are very actively questioning. I get the sense, I'm not on the emails, but I do get the sense that individual members may say, hey, I would like more detail on this to get more comfortable. So I think that they take their responsibilities seriously. I just want to make that clear.
When you say that individuals are sending emails to who?
Like if somebody had a question about the technology budget, they could send an email to Ross Mulcairn and say, hey, I'd like to understand what we're doing there. That wouldn't necessarily be like they're discussing it in the full budget and warrant subcommittee meeting, but it's similar to like when I was on the advisory committee. If I had a specific question to understand more, I could ask.
Okay. Okay, all right,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Next on our agenda is accepting gifts. And Don, we're talking about the ETC Adopt the Poll. By the way, how is the gift policy coming along?
It's coming along. I've got the Mass General Law sitting right out on my desk. But the next step is to test my understanding with Brian Falk, and I'm hoping to have that ready for January.
Okay, good. There are a number of companies and people in Bolton who have contributed to the Adopt a Poll decorating initiative this fall. The total amount being donated is just over $1,700, and we need a vote of the select board to accept these. What I'd like to do is read off who the donors are, and unless I state otherwise, each one of these companies has donated one wreath to the town Main Street decoration. So the list is first Tuck and Tuck Architects, 626 Main Street LLC, Bolton Global Capital has donated 20 wreaths. Animal Adventures has donated 4 wreaths. Other companies are the Yoga 626 Studio, Rick and Terry Freeman of Keller Williams, the MJT Group with Jackie Foster, Foster Landscape and Construction, 2-Story Building, Le Petit Studio, Amy Balzowitz Homes, Murphy Insurance Agency has donated 8 wreaths, John Palama Masonry, and Bolton Bean. So there's a total of 43 wreaths with a total of $1,714.17. Do I have a motion to, I'm sorry, the donation was $1,290. Do I have a motion to accept the gifts?
Make a motion, we accept the gifts for the EDC Adopt a Pole Decorating Initiative for this year.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes,
Brian?
yes.
I'm a yes also.
And
Okay.
thank you to everybody for that. They look beautiful.
Yes. Don, could you give us an update on the search committee? And I believe we have some appointments to make.
Yes, we received, before the deadline, we received, statements of interest from 2 residents, to serve in the capacity of the 2 residents you were looking for, Penny Gherkin and Lorraine Ramasco. And, for the business representative, Michael Murphy of Murphy Insurance has, agreed to do that. So that, those would be the, I don't know, at-large positions, I guess, if you will, that you were looking for, aside from the specific functions that you had already voted that you would like to see on the committee.
Do I have a motion to make those appointments?
so moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes,
Brian?
yes.
And I'm a yes.
And parenthetically, I will tell you that John Petron has already started meeting with some staff and scheduling time with staff to get their input on the type of traits they'd like to see out of their next town administrator.
Okay, very good. Good. Appointments to the Insurance Advisory Committee.
Yep. Kristen Noel solicited responses from the various unions on who would be serving in the capacity. Jenny has those names, I believe.
You're muted.
The muted Jenny has those names, I believe.
Sorry about that. Did I not include it in the packet?
no,
I didn't see
Let
it.
me grab that. Give me just a moment. Okay, so the retiree is David Farrell, or would be David Farrell. For fire, Steve Coaches. For DPW, Nate Berry and Scott Babineau and Don Baum. For police, Jason Puri, Marianne Canary, and Kim Berry. And that is it.
That's it.
Do I have a motion?
motion to approve the slate of candidates.
Second,
Roll call. Stan?
Yes,
Brian?
yes.
I'm a yes. We have gift acceptance again on the agenda, but that's just a duplication, right?
They were so generous, we put it down twice.
Excellent, excellent. Do I have a motion to approve bills and payroll warrants W 24-11 and W 24-11A?
so moved.
Second,
Roll call. Brian?
yes.
Stan?
Yes,
I'm a yes also, and we do not have any minutes to approve. Is that correct, Jenny?
That is correct.
Okay. Next on our agenda is for the select board to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the police union, Local 170, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the beginning or litigating position of the select board and the chair so declares. Also to approve executive session minutes. The board will return to open session to possibly vote on a police union side letter of agreement on the contract. Do I have a motion to enter executive session?
so moved.
Second,
Roll call. Brian?
yes.
Stan?
Yes.
I'm a yes also.